Welcome back to Red Dice Diaries, and this is a short video response to Sam from Chalice in Chains video about player buy-in and when the commitment levels between players and GMs differ somewhat. And now this is a problem that I think a lot of GMs have. It's certainly one that I've had. Now, as Sam obviously is from his video, I tend to be a GM who invests a significant amount of time in preparing for my games and my campaigns. I also try and keep in touch with players to keep them apprised of events, how planning's going, etc. between actual game sessions, because I don't want a game to just be you turn up for a session, you game for a few hours, you forget about it. I want it to be something that players look forward to, that they enjoy while they're actually playing it, and that they talk about between the game sessions. That's how one of the marks I think you can use to judge a really good game, if people are talking about it when they're not actually playing it. Now, that's great if, as I'm lucky enough to have at the moment, you have some very enthusiastic players who are quite on board with talking about the game, appreciate the effort you put in, and put a similar amount of effort in themselves. However, this isn't always the case. I've certainly had games where the amount of effort I've been putting in has been far greater than that of the players. I've had some face-to-face games where I've turned up having spent hours planning to have the players react in a fairly blasé way to everything that's going on. They've been very reactive. They've not really been engaging with it. It's just seemed as though it's a way to pass the time for a few hours rather than something to be actively participated in. I think you have a few choices if you find yourself in this situation. The first choice you have is you can either talk to the players and see what you can do about this. They may not have realised how much their lack of commitment is affecting your enjoyment of the game. Two, you can lower your expectations rather than spending hours preparing for a game, days preparing for a game, whatever you spend. You can reduce it down and run it more as a social activity rather than an actual game. You take a bit more of a laissez-faire attitude to it. It's not personally something I'd want to do, but if you're happy doing that, great. There's nothing wrong with a bit more of a casual gaming. If you enjoy that sort of thing, that's fine. Like I say, it's not for me personally, but to each their own. Or finally, you can say to those players, obviously our styles aren't compatible, and you can either eject those players from your group or you can stop running the game. Now, I've had a few games where I've stopped running them because I thought the amount of effort I was putting into preparing them, well, it wasn't worth the effort given how little was coming back from the players. And it's always slightly disappointing when you do that, because obviously when we all start a game, we all have a very grand idea. So we imagine it's going to be the next great epic. We want every game to be better than the last. However, there is a certain point, I feel, when if all the effort's coming from one side, whether that be the player or whether that be the GM, you really have to cut your losses and walk away from it. Now, whether that's you as a GM saying the players aren't investing in the game, or your style isn't compatible with that of your players, and just calling the game to a halt and walking away, or whether you're a player who's turning up and putting a lot of effort into your portrayal of your character, and the GM's not really giving that back in the amount of effort they're putting into the game, and you might have to walk away from that game. Like I said, it might feel a little bit disappointing at the time, but the way I think you have to look at it is that if you're just spending all this time actually going to a game and you're not getting any great enjoyment out of it, then surely you could actually be spending your time far better doing something else. Whether that's running a game for a group who do appreciate your playing style or doing something entirely different, that's entirely down to yourself. Now, as Sam said in his video, social contracts can help lessen this impact a bit. And one of the things I found also lessens this is numerous ways that you can get the players more involved. Certainly the world creation method I now prefer, where you get the players to help create the world and expand on it, tends to result in them being more involved and enjoying the game more and being more invested in it. So there are a number of different things you can do to help lessen that. However, if at the end of the day all of the effort's still coming in from one side, and you've tried talking to them about it and there's been no result, you might just have to, at the end of the day, walk away from that group and try and find one that better suits your GMing style. And they are out there. I've had a couple of groups where I've had to walk away from them just because our styles weren't compatible, but that's led to me being in some of the groups I am now that I'm very happy with. So there can be a happy ending to the story. So that's my opinion on player buy-in and what you could possibly do when your commitment levels differ. If you like this video, hit it with a thumbs up. If you don't like it, hit it with a thumbs down. I hope you've enjoyed it. You'll consider clicking on the red dice up there and subscribing to my channel. Until I see you next time, happy gaming wherever you are in the world.